Jake Martinez pushed his cleaning cart down the long hallway of the Centauri Naval Academy. The wheels made a soft squeaking sound on the polished floor. It was 3 in the morning, and the academy was quiet. This was how Jake liked it. No students, no teachers. Just him and the empty halls. He'd been working here for 3 years now. Every night he came in with his mop and bucket. Every night, he cleaned the same rooms. The classrooms where future space officers learned about war. The training rooms, where alien cadets practiced fighting. The dining hall where they all ate together and talked about their bright futures among the stars. Jake knew all the rooms by heart. He knew which trash cans were always full and which ones stayed empty. He knew where the students liked to hide their snacks and where they left their homework. He saw everything, but nobody saw him. That was exactly how he wanted it. The academy was the most important military school in the galaxy. Students came here from dozens of different planets. There were the tall blue Zephyrians with their big brains who thought they were the smartest beings alive. There were the strong Kandorians with their thick muscles and loud voices. There were the snake-like Vortons who could bend their bodies in impossible ways. And then there were the humans. Not many of them, but a few. Most aliens thought humans were okay for basic work, cleaning, cooking, simple jobs that did not need much thinking. The galaxy had bigger, stronger, and smarter species. Humans were just average at everything. Jake had heard all the jokes. He heard them every day. "Hey, look," a Zephyrian cadet had said last week. "Even the janitor is human. I guess they really are good at cleaning up messes." His friends had laughed. Jake had kept mopping the floor like he did not hear them. His face showed nothing, but his hand had gripped the mop handle a little tighter. Tonight, Jake cleaned the strategy classroom first. This was where cadets learned how to plan battles and move fleets through space. The walls were covered with star maps and pictures of famous battles. Jake looked at them sometimes when he worked. He knew every battle shown there. He knew things about those battles that were not in any book, but he kept that knowledge to himself. Jake moved to the next room. As he opened the door, he heard voices inside. That was strange. No one was supposed to be here this late. He listened carefully. "The test is tomorrow," a voice said. It sounded like Cadet Zex, one of the Zephyrian students. "Did you get the answers?" "Yes," another voice replied. "My cousin works in the teacher's office. He copied the test for us." Jake stopped moving. They were planning to cheat on their exam. The strategic warfare test was one of the most important tests at the academy. It decided who would become fleet commanders and who would get simple ship duties. "Perfect," Zex said. "Those humans in our class think they are so smart. Wait until they see our perfect scores." "Especially that Lisa Turner," the second voice said. "She always acts like humans belong here with real warriors." Jake felt something hot rise in his chest. Lisa Turner was one of the few human cadets at the academy. She worked twice as hard as everyone else just to prove she belonged here. She stayed up late studying while other students relied on their natural advantages. The voices moved away. Jake heard a door close on the other side of the room. The cadets had left through the back exit. Jake stood in the dark hallway for a long moment. Then he went into the room and turned on his small flashlight. He found what he was looking for on the teacher's desk. Study materials for tomorrow's test. The real ones and the fake ones the teacher used to catch cheaters. Jake worked quickly. He switched the papers around. The cheaters would get the wrong answers. When they took the test tomorrow, they would fail badly, and the teacher would know exactly what happened when he saw their identical wrong answers. Jake smiled in the dark. It was a small smile, but it felt good. He finished cleaning the room and moved on. The academy had 17 floors and over 200 rooms. Jake knew them all. He had memorized every corner, every exit, every hiding spot. Not because he needed to for his job, but because old habits were hard to break. In the dining hall, Jake found more evidence of the casual disrespect he faced every day. Someone had left a note on his cleaning cart. It said, "Thanks for keeping our floors clean, human." The words looked nice, but Jake could see the mockery in them. He threw the note away and kept working. As Jake mopped the floor, he thought about his life here. 3 years of invisible days, 3 years of being ignored and dismissed. 3 years of keeping his head down and his mouth shut. 3 years of hiding who he really was. Sometimes he wondered if he had made the right choice. But then he remembered why he had come here. He remembered the nightmares, the weight of command, the lives lost because of his decisions, the enemies who still hunted him across the galaxy. Here, he was nobody. Here, he was safe. Jake reached up to adjust his collar. It was always pulled high, even when he worked alone. Underneath the fabric, hidden from view, was something he could never let anyone see, something that would change everything if the wrong person noticed it. He had spent too many years building this quiet life to let it fall apart now. Jake finished the dining hall and moved toward the dormitory floors. As he walked, he practiced, the same thing he practiced every day, being invisible, moving without sound, thinking without showing it on his face. After all, Jake Martinez was just a custodian, a simple human who cleaned floors and emptied trash cans. Nothing more. At least, that was what everyone believed, and Jake planned to keep it that way. The alarm started screaming at exactly 2:15 in the afternoon. Jake was cleaning the windows on the 5th floor when the red lights began flashing. He knew that sound. It was the emergency alarm for the zero-gravity training center. Jake dropped his cleaning cloth and ran toward the sound. His feet moved fast and silent down the hallway. Other people were running too, but they were making noise and bumping into each other. Jake moved like water around them. The zero-gravity center was where cadets learned to fight and work in space. It was a huge room with no up or down. Magnetic fields kept people floating in the air. Today, something had gone very wrong. Jake reached the center first. Through the thick glass windows, he could see the problem. 6 cadets were trapped inside. The artificial gravity had failed and they were floating helplessly. But that was not the worst part. A piece of equipment had broken loose and was spinning through the air. It was heavy and sharp, and it would hurt anyone it hit. The cadets were scared. Jake could see it in their faces. 3 of them were human, including Lisa Turner. The other 3 were aliens. They were all trying to grab onto things to stop floating, but there was nothing to hold. "Help them!" someone shouted behind Jake. Jake turned around. A crowd of students and teachers had gathered. They were all talking at once. Everyone had ideas, but no one was doing anything. "Where is the instructor?" a Zephyrian cadet asked. "He went to get help," someone answered. "He will be back in 10 minutes. Jake looked back at the trapped cadets. 10 minutes was too long. The spinning equipment was getting faster. Soon, it would hit someone. "Move back," Jake said quietly. Nobody heard him. They were still talking and pointing. "Move back," Jake said, again louder this time. His voice cut through the noise like a knife. Everyone stopped talking and looked at him. For a moment, Jake forgot he was supposed to be invisible. His voice had carried the tone of someone used to being obeyed. Jake walked to the control panel for the training center. The other people watched him with confused faces. What was the janitor doing? "You cannot operate that," said Commander Thalex, a Zephyrian instructor. "Only trained personnel are allowed to use the controls." Jake ignored him. He looked at the control panel and saw the problem immediately. 3 switches were in the wrong position. Someone had tried to fix the gravity system but had made it worse instead. "Listen to me," Jake said to the crowd. His voice was calm but strong. "I need someone to go to the supply room on floor 3. Get the emergency magnetic hooks, fast." Human cadet named Ben Cooper ran toward the supply room without asking questions. "You," Jake pointed to a Kandorian cadet. "Go to the communication center. Tell them to shut off power to training room 7 for exactly 30 seconds. No more, no less." The Kandorian cadet hesitated. "Who are you to give orders?" Jake looked at him. Something in Jake's eyes made the Kandorian step back. "Go, now." The cadet ran. Jake turned back to the control panel. His hands moved over the switches with perfect confidence. He knew exactly what each button did. This was not the first time he had dealt with emergency systems. "What are you doing?" Commander Thalx demanded. "Saving them," Jake replied. Ben Cooper came back with the magnetic hooks. These were special tools that could stick to the walls even when gravity was not working. "When I tell you," Jake said to Ben, "throw these hooks through the emergency port. The cadets can use them to pull themselves to safety." Jake watched the spinning equipment inside the training room. He was calculating its path, its speed, its exact position. In his mind, he could see where it would be in 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. The power went off just like Jake had ordered. The spinning equipment slowed down but did not stop completely. This was Jake's chance. "Now!" Jake shouted. Ben threw the magnetic hooks through the small emergency port. They flew straight and true, exactly where Jake had told him to aim. The trapped cadets grabbed the hooks and started pulling themselves toward the walls. Jake flipped 3 switches on the control panel. The gravity system hummed back to life. Slowly, carefully, the cadets floated down to the floor. They were safe. The crowd cheered. Everyone was talking at once again, but now they were happy instead of scared. Lisa Turner was the first cadet to come out of the training room. Her face was pale, but she was not hurt. She walked straight to Jake. "Thank you," she said. "You saved our lives." Jake felt uncomfortable with all the attention. People were looking at him differently now. They had seen him take charge. They had seen him give orders that worked. This was not good for someone who wanted to stay invisible. "Just doing my job," Jake said quietly. He started to turn away. "Wait," Lisa said. She reached out to touch his arm. "How did you know what to do? Those controls are very complicated." "Askawi." Lisa reached for him. Her hand accidentally caught the edge of Jake's collar. The fabric pulled down slightly, showing a small part of his neck. Lisa's eyes went wide. She had seen something dark on his skin, something that looked like part of a tattoo. Jake quickly pulled his collar back up. "I should get back to work," he said. But Lisa kept staring at his neck. She had studied military history. She knew what tattoos meant in the military. Different units had different designs. Special forces had very special designs. "Jake," she said slowly, "what unit were you in?" Jake looked at her for a long moment. He could see the intelligence in her eyes. Lisa Turner was not just a good student. She was smart in ways that could be dangerous for someone like him. "I was never in any unit," Jake said. "I am just a custodian." But his voice was different now. Harder, more careful. And Lisa noticed. Commander Thalix was also watching Jake carefully. Zephyrians were known for their big brains and their ability to notice small details. Thalix had seen how Jake moved during the emergency. He had seen the confidence, the quick thinking, the natural command presence. No ordinary human moved like that. No janitor knew that much about emergency systems. "Very impressive work," Thalix said to Jake. "Where did you learn about gravity control systems?" "Basic maintenance training," Jake replied. "I see." Thalix did not believe him. "And the tactical thinking, the way you coordinated the rescue?" Jake shrugged. "Common sense." But Commander Thalix was not satisfied. After Jake left, he made a note in his personal files. The human custodian was more than he appeared to be. Much more. That evening, Jake worked alone in his small apartment. He looked at himself in the mirror and touched his neck where Lisa had almost seen his tattoo. He had been careful for 3 years. One small mistake could ruin everything. But as he got ready for another night of work, Jake could not stop thinking about the scared faces of those cadets. They had needed help, and he had helped them. For a few minutes, he had remembered what it felt like to be useful for something more than cleaning floors. Maybe that was worth the risk. Maybe. The fire alarm started ringing at midnight. Jake was cleaning the library when he heard it. This was not a drill. Real smoke was coming from somewhere in the building. Jake grabbed his emergency radio from his cleaning cart. All Academy staff had to carry one. The voice on the radio was scared and talking fast. "Fire in the historical archives. All students evacuate immediately. Staff report to emergency stations." Jake knew where the historical archives were. 5th floor, East Wing. That was where the Academy kept its most important documents. Battle, plans from famous wars, treaties between planets. records that could never be replaced. Jake ran toward the stairs. Other people were running too, but they were going the wrong way. Everyone else was leaving the building. Jake was the only one running toward the fire. He reached the 5th floor and saw smoke coming from under a door. The air was getting thick and hard to breathe. Jake pulled his shirt up over his nose and mouth. The door to the archives was hot when he touched it. That meant the fire was bad inside. But Jake could hear something else through the door. Someone was coughing. Jake opened the door carefully. Smoke poured out into the hallway. Inside the room, he could see flames eating the walls, and in the middle of the room trying to save documents was Lisa Turner. "Lisa!" Jake shouted. "Get out of there!" Lisa looked up. Her face was black with smoke. She was holding a box of papers against her chest. "I cannot leave these," she called back. "These are the original peace treaties. If they burn, we lose 300 years of history." Jake ran into the burning room. The heat hit him like a wall. His eyes started watering immediately. But he could see Lisa was trapped. Burning shelves had fallen between her and the door. "This way." Jake pointed to a different path through the flames. But as they ran towards safety, a burning beam fell from the ceiling. It was coming straight down at Lisa. She was looking at the documents in her arms and did not see it. Jake threw himself forward and knocked Lisa out of the way. The beam hit his back and shoulder hard. His shirt tore open from his neck to his chest. They both fell to the floor. Jake's back hurt, but he could still move. Lisa was safe but shaken. The box of documents scattered across the floor. "The papers?" Lisa cried. "Forget them," Jake said. He started gathering Lisa up to carry her out. But Lisa was not looking at the papers anymore. She was looking at Jake. His torn shirt had fallen away from his neck and shoulder. For the first time, she could see his skin clearly. And what she saw made her forget all about the fire. Jake's neck was covered with a tattoo. Not just any tattoo. Lisa had studied military history her whole life. She knew what she was looking at. The tattoo was black and red. It showed a skull with wings. Around the skull were stars and numbers. Below it were small marks that looked like tiny medals. And at the bottom, in letters she could barely read through the smoke, were the words Ghost Division. Lisa's mouth fell open. The Ghost Division was legendary. They were the most secret, most dangerous unit in all of human military history. Only the best of the best ever got into the Ghost Division, and only the most successful ever got the full tattoo. But that was not all. Lisa could see other marks on Jake's skin. Service ribbons tattooed in neat rows, battle honors, and dates. Lots of dates. The Siege of Proxima, the Battle of the Void Gates, Operation Silent Thunder. Lisa knew those names. Every military student knew those names. They were the most important battles humanity had ever fought. The battles that proved humans belonged among the stars. "You," Lisa whispered. "You were there. You were at Proxima." Jake realized what had happened. His secret was out. After 3 years of hiding, his past was written on his skin for anyone to see. "We need to go," Jake said. He did not deny what Lisa had seen. Jake helped Lisa to her feet. Together they ran out of the burning room. The fire department was arriving as they reached the main floor. Emergency crews rushed past them toward the flames. Outside the building, Lisa and Jake sat on a bench. The fire was under control now, but Lisa could not stop staring at Jake. Her mind was racing with everything she had seen. "Ghost Division," she said quietly. "Do you know what that means?" Jake touched his neck where his torn shirt still showed part of the tattoo. "Yeah, I know. The Ghost Division has not existed for 10 years, Lisa said. Everyone thinks it was disbanded after the war." "It was," Jake replied. "But you have the tattoo. The full tattoo. That means you were not just a member. You were a leader." Jake did not answer. Lisa kept talking. Her voice was getting excited. "The battle marks on your skin. I saw Proxima. That was 12 years ago. And the Void Gates. And Silent Thunder." She paused. Silent Thunder was a solo mission. Only one person ever came back from that. Jake looked at her. "Lisa, You need to forget what you saw. Forget? Lisa almost laughed. Do you know who you are? You are a legend. Military schools teach courses about your missions. There are books written about the Ghost Division. Those books do not use real names, Jake said. No, but they use call signs. They use mission reports. Lisa was thinking hard. Silent Thunder, the lone operative, who infiltrated the Kandorian command ship, who single-handedly stopped an invasion fleet. She looked at Jake with new eyes. What was your call sign? Jake was quiet for a long time. Then he said, Phantom. Lisa felt her heart stop. Phantom was the most famous Ghost Division operative ever. He had completed impossible missions, saved entire star systems, and then after Silent Thunder he had disappeared completely. Everyone thinks Phantom died on that mission, Lisa said. Maybe he did, Jake replied. Maybe the person who came back was just Jake Martinez, Custodian. But why? Lisa asked. Why hide? Why work as a janitor when you could be teaching strategy? You could be commanding fleets. Jake stood up from the bench. His shirt was still torn, and Lisa could see more of the tattoo. There were so many battle honors, so many dates, so much history written on one man's skin. Because I was tired, Jake said simply. Tired of making decisions that got people killed. Tired of being responsible for everything. I wanted to disappear. But you cannot just disappear, Lisa said. You are too important. Watch me, Jake replied. He started to walk away, but Lisa called after him. Jake, what about your secret? Are you going to make me promise not to tell anyone? Jake stopped and turned back. No, you are going to make that choice yourself. You are smart, Lisa. Smart enough to understand what happens if the wrong people find out I am still alive. Lisa thought about that. There were probably enemies out there who still wanted revenge against Phantom. There were probably governments who would want to use him. And there were definitely people who would not let him stay in hiding. I will not tell anyone, Lisa said. Jake nodded. Thank you. But as Jake walked away, both he and Lisa knew that keeping this secret would not be easy. Too many people had noticed Jake's unusual skills. Too many questions were being asked, and in a place like the Centauri Naval Academy, secrets had a way of coming out. Admiral Patricia Hayes was in her office when she got the report about the fire. The report mentioned that a human custodian named Jake Martinez had saved important documents and helped rescue a cadet. Hayes looked at Jake's employment file on her computer. It was very basic. Too basic, almost like someone had created a fake identity. Hayes picked up her secure phone and made a call to military intelligence. It was time to find out who Jake Martinez really was. Because Admiral Hayes had not gotten to her position by ignoring suspicious coincidences, and a janitor who could coordinate emergency rescues and run into burning buildings was definitely suspicious. The investigation was about to begin. Jake was mopping the floor in the main hallway when Admiral Patricia Hayes found him. It was 7 in the morning and most of the academy was still asleep. Jake liked the quiet hours, but today, the quiet was about to end. Jake Martinez, the Admiral said. Her voice was serious. Jake looked up from his mop. Admiral Hayes was the most powerful person at the academy. She was also human, which made her unusual. Most academy commanders were aliens who thought they were better than humans. Yes, ma'am, Jake said. I need to speak with you in my office now. Jake followed the Admiral through the empty hallways. His mind was working fast. Had she found out about his real identity? Had Lisa told someone after all? Admiral Hayes' office was big and filled with pictures of famous space battles. Jake recognized all of them. He had been in 3 of those battles himself. Sit down, the Admiral said. Jake sat in the chair across from her desk. He kept his face calm, but inside he was ready for anything. Admiral Hayes opened a file folder on her desk. I have been looking into your background, Jake. Your employment records are very clean. Almost too clean. Jake said nothing. Most people leave traces when they live, the Admiral continued. School records, medical records, previous jobs. But your file only goes back 3 years. Before that, Jake Martinez did not exist. Jake met her eyes. People change their names sometimes. Start over. Yes, they do. Admiral Hayes pulled out a photograph. But they do not usually change their faces. She showed Jake the photograph. It was old and grainy, but Jake could see himself in it. He was younger and wearing a military uniform, the uniform of the Ghost Division. This photo was taken 12 years ago, Admiral Hayes said. It shows a Ghost Division operative called Phantom. The man in this picture looks exactly like you. Jake's heart was beating fast, but his voice stayed calm. Lots of people look alike. Admiral Hayes smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Jake, I was the intelligence officer before I became an admiral. I know how to investigate people. And I know when someone is lying to me. She pulled out more papers from the file. Lieutenant Colonel Jake Martinez, Ghost Division. Phantom was your call sign. You have more medals than most generals. You saved the Proxima system. You stopped the Kandorian invasion. You completed missions that no one else could complete. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "What do you want?" "The truth," Admiral Hayes replied. "Why is one of humanity's greatest war heroes working as a janitor?" Jake looked at the pictures on her walls. All those battles, all those lives lost. "Because I was tired of being a hero." "That is not good enough," the Admiral said. "Men like you do not just disappear. There are too many people who would want to find you, enemies, allies, governments." Before Jake could answer, the Admiral's secure phone started ringing. She answered it quickly. "Hayes here." Her face went pale as she listened. "Are you certain? When? How many ships?" Jake watched her face change. Something bad was happening. "Admiral." Hayes hung up the phone and looked at Jake. "We have a problem, a big problem." "What kind of problem?" Jake asked. "Commander Vex has escaped from prison." Jake felt cold all over. Commander Vex was a Kandorian war criminal. Jake had captured him during the war after Vex had destroyed 3 human colonies. Vex had sworn revenge against the human who had ruined his plans. "How did he escape?" Jake asked. "Someone helped him, someone with a lot of money and ships." "Admiral," Hayes looked worried. "Intelligence says he is heading this way. He has a small fleet with him. He is coming for me," Jake said quietly. "Yes, and he is planning to attack the academy to get to you." Jake stood up from his chair. "Then I need to leave, right now, before he gets here." "No," Admiral Hayes said firmly. "You are not running. Away this time." "This is not about running away," Jake said. "This is about protecting the students. If Vex wants me, he can have me, but not here." Admiral Hayes walked around her desk and stood in front of Jake. "Listen to me carefully. This academy has 3,000 students from 50 different worlds. If Vex attacks this place, it will start a war between dozens of planets. The political damage will be huge." "Then let me go to him," Jake said. "And let him torture and kill you?" "No." Admiral Hayes shook her head. "There is another way. We fight him here, on our terms." Jake looked at her like she was crazy. "This is a school, not a military base. These are students, not soldiers." "These are military students," Admiral Hayes corrected. "And they have been training for war their whole lives. Besides, they have something Vex does not expect." "What?" Admiral Hayes smiled. "They have Phantom." Jake was quiet for a long time, then he said, "I have not been Phantom for 3 years. Maybe it is time to remember how." That afternoon, Jake stood in front of Admiral Hayes in her office again, but this time everything was different. Jake was not wearing his Custodian uniform. Instead, he wore simple military clothes. His hair was combed back. His shoulders were straight. His whole body looked different. The change was amazing. The quiet janitor was gone. In his place stood a soldier who looked like he could command armies. "How do you feel?" Admiral Hayes asked. "Like I never left," Jake replied. His voice was different too. Stronger, more confident. Admiral Hayes handed him a tablet computer. "These are the Academy's defensive systems. Study them. We have 6 hours before Vex arrives." Jake looked at the information on the tablet. The academy had some weapons, but not many. It was designed to teach students, not fight wars. But Jake could see possibilities that others would miss. "I will need to talk to the students," Jake said. "All of them? The ones who can fight, human and alien. This will not work if they do. Not trust me." "That might be difficult," Admiral Hayes said. "Most of them still think you are just a janitor." Jake smiled. It was the first real smile Admiral Hayes had seen from him. "Then it is time for them to learn something new." That evening, Jake stood in the academy's main auditorium. 300 students sat in front of him. They were confused about why the custodian was on stage. Some of them were whispering and pointing. Lisa Turner sat in the front row. She knew what was coming, but she was still excited to see it. "My name is Jake Martinez," Jake said. His voice carried clearly through the big room. "For the past 3 years, I have been your custodian. I have cleaned your floors, emptied your trash, and listened to your conversations." The students looked confused. Why was the janitor giving them a speech? "But before I came here," Jake continued, "I had a different job. I was a soldier. My call sign was Phantom." The whispering stopped. Every student in the room knew that name. "Tomorrow an enemy is coming to this academy. He is coming because of me. His name is Commander Vex, and he wants revenge." A Zephyrian cadet stood up. "If he is coming for you, why do not you just leave?" Jake looked at the cadet. "Because running away will not stop him. He will attack this academy whether I am here or not. The only difference is whether you are ready for him." "What do you want us to do?" asked a human cadet. "I want you to fight," Jake said simply. "Not as students, as soldiers. I want you to help me turn this academy into a fortress." The auditorium was completely quiet now. Every student was listening carefully. "I will not lie to you," Jake continued. "This will be dangerous. Some of you might get hurt, but if we work together, we can win." A Kandorian cadet stood up. "Why should we trust you? You are just a human." Jake smiled. "Because I am the human who defeated Commander Vex before, and I am going to do it again." The students began to understand. The quiet janitor they had ignored for 3 years was actually a legend. The man who had won impossible battles was asking for their help. One by one, they started to stand up. First the humans, then some of the aliens, then more and more until the entire auditorium was on their feet. Jake looked at them all and nodded. "Then let us get to work." The attack came at dawn. Jake was standing in the academy's command center when the alarm started screaming. Through the big windows, he could see dark ships dropping out of space like angry birds. 12 ships, reported Ben Cooper, who was now working the communications. "They are surrounding the academy." Jake looked at the tactical display. Commander Vex had brought enough firepower to destroy a small city. But Jake was not worried about the ships. He was worried about what came. "Next incoming message," Ben said. "Put it on the main screen," Jake ordered. The screen flickered and Commander Vex appeared. He was a big Kandorian with thick muscles and scars on his face. His eyes were full of hate. "Phantom," Vex said. His voice was like broken glass. "I know. You are in there. Come out and face me like a warrior, or I will kill every student in that academy." Jake stepped forward so Vex could see him clearly. "I am here, Vex, just like old times." Vex smiled, showing sharp teeth. "Not like old times. This time you have nowhere to run. This time, I will watch you die slowly." "You want me?" Jake said. "Come and get me." The screen went black. Jake turned to the students around him. They were scared but trying not to show it. Humans, Zephyrians, Kandorians, and others, all working together. "Remember what we practiced," Jake said calmly. "Stick to the plan, trust each other, and do not try to be heroes." Lisa Turner was operating the defense systems from her station. "Jake, they are launching troops. Looks like 200 soldiers." "Good," Jake said. "That means Vex is coming." Down himself, he always liked to finish things personally. Through the windows, they could see small ships flying toward the academy. The enemy soldiers were coming fast. Jake spoke into his radio. "All teams, this is Phantom. Phase 1 begins now." The academy had 17 floors and hundreds of rooms. Jake had spent 3 years learning every inch of this place. Now he was going to use that knowledge. The first group of enemy soldiers landed on the roof. They expected to find scared students and teachers. Instead, they found empty hallways and locked doors. "Where is everyone?" one soldier asked. His answer came from above. A section of the ceiling opened and Lisa Turner dropped down with 3 other cadets. They moved fast and quiet, just like Jake had taught them. The enemy soldiers were down before they could call for help. "Roof clear," Lisa whispered into her radio. Similar fights were happening all over the academy. The students had turned the school into a maze of traps and ambushes. Every room was a potential battleground. Every hallway was watched. Jake had taught them to use everything as a weapon. Chairs became barriers. Cafeteria tables became shields. Even the cleaning supplies became tools of war. "Second wave incoming," Ben reported. "They are trying to enter through the main hall." "Let them come," Jake said. The enemy soldiers blasted through the front doors and charged into the main hall. It looked empty and quiet. Too quiet. Then the lights went out. In the darkness, the students struck. They knew the academy by heart. They could move through it blind. The enemy soldiers stumbled around, confused and scared. When the lights came back on, 20 enemy soldiers were on the ground. The students had vanished back into the walls like ghosts. "This is impossible," Vex screamed over the radio. "They are just children." "They are soldiers now," Jake replied calmly. The battle continued for 2 hours. Every time the enemy thought they had won, the students would appear from nowhere and strike again. The academy's maintenance tunnels became secret highways. The ventilation shafts became sniper nests. Jake coordinated it all from the command center. He could see the whole battle like a chess game. Every move had been planned, every trap had been set. But Jake knew this was just the beginning. Vex would not be stopped by tricks and ambushes. Eventually, he would come for Jake himself. Final wave incoming, Lisa reported. "One ship, coming straight for the command center." Jake nodded. "All students, pull back to safe positions. This part is mine." "Jake, no," Lisa said. "We can help you." "You have helped enough," Jake replied. "You proved that humans belong here. All of you did. Now let me finish this." Jake left the command center and walked to the academy's main courtyard. It was a big open space in the middle of the building, perfect for a final fight. Commander Vex's ship landed hard on the courtyard floor. The door opened, and Vex stepped out. He was wearing heavy battle armor and carrying a huge weapon. Behind him came 6 more soldiers. Jake stood in the center of the courtyard. He was wearing simple clothes and carrying nothing but a basic energy pistol. He looked very small, compared to Vex and his soldiers. "So," Vex said, walking closer. "The great Phantom, you look older, weaker." "Maybe," Jake said. "But you look the same. Still ugly. Still stupid." Vex roared with anger and raised his weapon. But Jake was already moving. This was what the Ghost Division had trained him for, not just fighting but moving like a shadow, being everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Jake rolled behind a pillar as Vex's weapon fired. The energy blast missed by inches. Jake came up on the other side and shot 2 of Vex's soldiers before they could react. "Stand still and fight," Vex shouted. "Why?" Jake replied from somewhere in the shadows. "This is more fun." The battle in the courtyard was fast and brutal. Jake used every trick he had learned in years of war. He used the architecture of the academy itself as a weapon. Pillars became cover, stairs became high ground. Even the decorative plants became hiding places. One by one, Vex's soldiers fell. They were good fighters, but they were not trained for this kind of battle. They were used to straight fights with clear enemies. Jake was something else entirely. Finally, only Vex was left. He stood in the middle of the courtyard, breathing hard and looking around for Jake. "Come out, Phantom," Vex yelled. "Face me like a warrior. Jake stepped out from behind a pillar. His clothes were torn and he had a cut on his face, but he was still standing. "You want a fair fight?" Jake asked. "Yes." Jake threw his pistol to the ground. "Then come and get one." Vex charged forward with a battle cry. He was bigger and stronger than Jake. His armor made him almost impossible to hurt. But Jake had something Vex did not have. Jake had learned that the best way to win a fight was to make the enemy defeat himself. As Vex charged, Jake stepped aside at the last second. Vex crashed into a pillar, stunning himself. Jake grabbed Vex's weapon and broke it in half over his knee. "The thing about revenge," Jake said as Vex struggled to get up, "is that it makes you stupid." The fight was over quickly after that. Vex was strong, but Jake was smarter, and Jake was fighting to protect something he cared about. When it was finished, Jake stood over the defeated Vex. Around the courtyard, students were appearing from doorways and balconies. They had watched the whole fight. "It is over," Jake announced. The students cheered. They had won. They had defended their academy and proved they were real soldiers. Admiral Hayes appeared in the courtyard. "Well done, Jake. All of you." Jake looked around at the students. Humans and aliens working together. Fighting together, winning together. "What happens now?" Lisa asked. Jake thought about that. A week ago, he had been a custodian who just wanted to be invisible. Now he was Phantom again, surrounded by young soldiers who looked up to him. "Now," Jake said, "I go back to work." "Back to custodial work?" Admiral Hayes asked. Jake smiled. "That too, but I think I might also do some teaching. These students need to learn a few more things about real warfare." Lisa grinned. "Does this mean you will stop hiding who you are?" Jake touched his neck where his tattoo was still covered by his shirt. Then, slowly, he unbuttoned his collar and let it fall open. For the first time in 3 years, his Ghost Division tattoo was visible to everyone. "Maybe it is time to stop hiding," he said. The students gathered around him, human and alien alike. They wanted to hear his stories. They wanted to learn from the legend who had been cleaning their floors. Jake looked at them all and realized something important. He had spent 3 years trying to forget who he used to be. But maybe the real answer was not forgetting the past. Maybe it was choosing what to do with it. He was Jake Martinez, custodian, but he was also Phantom, soldier and teacher, and for the first time in years, that felt exactly right. 6 months later, Jake still cleaned the floors of the academy every night, but during the day, he taught advanced tactics to the best students. His classroom was always full. Everyone wanted to learn from the man who had turned a school into a fortress. The Ghost Division tattoo on his neck was no longer hidden. It was a reminder that heroism came in many forms. Sometimes it meant winning impossible battles. Sometimes it meant mopping floors with pride. And sometimes it meant teaching the next generation that they were capable of more than they ever imagined.